require the use of your banana organs.
What?
We shall have intercourse with you.
What's up guys, Nakey Jakey here, and you know what we're here to talk about. It is the fall season of 2024, which means new shows to talk about. So yeah, why don't we just get into the first show that I want to recommend. So yeah, ReZero is back for a third season, and I can't help but get excited because this show only comes back every presidential electoral term. But it doesn't hurt to wait because this third season is already off to an amazing start. The production has obviously changed, and you can tell that the art style is very different from the second season. The second season was a little scuffed with the artwork. The action has been very good, and in the second episode, you can really see that Studio White Fox is trying to feel out the waters and kind of just go in on scenes that they didn't necessarily need to. But it's the third season. I don't have to sell you on the show. If you're already a fan, you'll be watching it. If you're not, then get caught up because this is the best isekai, hands down, that I've ever consumed. So yeah, moving on. Yeah, so this is the big hitter show of fall 2024. Dandadan has been hyped till no end, and it's just amazing. The leaks could not stop the A-Train, baby. Even with the show being fully out there on the internet before the first episode debuted, it was just a smash hit when it first aired. And since Netflix is hosting it, the dub is airing simultaneously.
Turbo Granny?
Which also helps because the dub casting is phenomenal. Studio Science Saru has become one of my favorite studios, and it just goes to show that they wanted to work from the Scott Pilgrim anime and kind of mesh that with Studio Bones' Mob Psycho, and it just has this cool mix of both of them. You just know that the source material has to be weird for Studio Science Saru to have to pick it up. And if you don't know, the author for Dandadan actually worked with Tatsuki Fujimoto during the production of Chainsaw Man early on, and you can tell he takes that inspiration with his writing, because if you've read Dandadan, you know how crazy it gets. And it's really easy to see why the show has blown up and is the most popular thing airing this season. You have Creepy Nuts doing another opening. When they make an opening, popularity follows suit. The soundtrack has been great so far as well, and only after seeing a 20-minute block in the first episode, you already feel like the main characters have such a great dynamic. And from what I've heard, it seems like the romance between the two of them is better than most actual romance series. But yeah, this is a definite must-watch this season. Disregard the first episode, that's pretty much like the only real freaky thing that happens in this series. It is weird, but it's not that type of weird, if you know what I mean.
You gotta hold it, keep it held down, and then don't move!
So yeah, season 2 of Shangri La Frontier is about to start airing. I say that because it's not actually airing right now, but I'm confident that this second season is just going to be as good as the first season, which is kind of insane because the first season dropped not too long ago. They're making 2 24-episode seasons in 1 year. It's kind of crazy how the quality has been this high. But yeah, if you didn't hear me talk about the show last time I talked about it, I really enjoyed it. It's basically like a VR MMO style anime, kind of similar to Sword Art Online, but this is easily in a masterclass of its own for the genre. I don't want to restate everything I said in my previous video about what makes the show so good, but just know that it basically just takes in every detail into account about how a real person would play a video game, but it also doesn't detract from the story at hand. It's just overall done so well. And a lot of effort was put into not only like the fight choreography, but just making sure these systems feel fleshed out like it's an actual game being played. The fall season has a lot of sequels coming out this year, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. If you think this is a show you'll be into, just given the genre, you would like it. But some of you might be thinking, but Ben, how can you recommend a show that hasn't even come out yet? Or let alone recommend shows where there's only 1 or 2 episodes that have aired? And to that I say, well, 1, you shouldn't doubt my recommendations. I'm always spot on. And 2, it is very rare for a show to just drop in quality after the first episode. I mean, that's like, you don't really ever see that. Okay, what the fuck? Can we just like pass a new law where it should be illegal to make a Junji Ito adaptation bad? Because the amount of times this has happened is just, it's not right to this man. This poor guy can't catch a break. Like, this actually pisses me off. This is probably the worst one yet, because they actually made a good first episode just to throw it all away. Like, what is this shit? And I say good for just like the art, because mainly the big issue with Junji Ito adaptations is the artwork, but the first episode of Uzumaki is all over the place. The pacing just makes no sense, and they're throwing 30 different big picture moments in the manga just at the same time in a 20-minute block. I should have knew things were over when I saw that it was only 4 episodes long. And look, I probably shouldn't even put this in this video, but man, watching that first episode and just seeing the visuals actually done right, that alone, you should just, if you're a Junji Ito fan, you should just go and watch it. If I had to take a guess of how things went wrong, this show was in production since 2019, or at least that's when they announced that this show was even like an idea or an inkling. I like to think that production IG just spent most of their time mapping out that first episode. Years later, be hit by Adult Swim and be like, hey, let's finish this out. Is a year okay? And then they pumped out 3 shitty episodes to cram in all the content of the manga just to have it done for the sake of completion. I'm like slurring my words here because I'm actually like just mad. I've been looking forward to this for so long, since it debuted. I was like, finally, a black and white, no color edition of a Junji Ito series. Cool. And they're doing all this rotoscoping so they can actually like get the unnerving live action kind of performances out of like the characters. But whatever. This is a video about the ones to watch. I'm gonna leave this here. Watch the first episode, honestly. Form your own opinion. I want to go past the first episode though. That second episode ruined my night when I threw it on. Now that I've had time to cool off, I'm just going to rattle off some shows with ongoing seasons that are just, you know, getting an update. So we got Bleach, 1,000 Year Blood Wars continuing. Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? Or Danmachi's getting a 5th season, which, man, I can't believe we're already on to a 5th season of that. Tower of God, you know, the 2nd season's getting the 2nd core for anyone that's still watching that. Gun Gale Season 2 is out. I'm not watching that, but yeah. Then there's a Blue Exorcist sequel, which, if you're a Blue Exorcist fan, that's more content for you. Toilet Bound Hanako is actually getting a 2nd season, which I completely forgot that show existed. It was so long ago when I watched that. So I'm excited to see that come back. So yeah, that's enough of that. Let's start talking about some more unique shows airing this season. Oh man, so here's an underrated pick. Mecha Ude is a show I found randomly scrolling through my YouTube recommended, and I saw the opening got posted because the first episode dropped. I was like, oh, this looks sick. Little did I know when throwing on that first episode, it would become my most anticipated series to see how they would follow through with it till the end. You'll really come to love this show if you're a fan of Gainax, well, former Gainax, Trigger, especially their works, because it has a lot of the framework of a Trigger show, and it was just a real joy to watch. You know, you had the bouncy character animation, just the fluid combat, and it just felt like one of those early 2000 shows with just a kind of weird concept. You know, you had these mechanical arms that are attached to various different limbs of your body and are kind of an extension of yourself. You can tell that the plot is kind of just going wherever, because this is an anime original concept by a new up-and-coming studio, so this is kind of their debut project. And man, what a hit they've had so far. I mean, clearly the nostalgia is hitting strong with this one, but it just seems like one of those series that just wants to throw a good time in your face, you know? One of my favorite aspects of the first episode when watching was just how they would give so much character to the robots. They are just literal arms, but they express so much emotion with the way they move, and the way their little eyes squint, and how they just lug around when they're detached. Not only that, but the VA director did such a great job of understanding of how these robots would sound and kind of their little quirks and how they would talk and act. It follows this really great principle of design where you kind of just know what the character is going to be like before they even open their mouth. A shared sentiment that I agree with and I see being thrown around is that this looks like a YouTube web series or just like an indie Japanese animator. This feels like it was commissioned for like an Eve music video. Again, the style is just what's really carrying my enjoyment of this one so far, but I have hopes that like maybe the characters can pull through with kind of the story. The evil organization seems very cartoonishly evil to a great extent. But yeah, so far this is like a low stakes, turn your brain off kind of show. And if you just want a goofy good time with some great action and some really lovable characters already, just throw this on, you won't be disappointed. Trust me. Now we got, count 'em, 2 blue shows airing this season. So which one do we talk about next? So Blue Lock is back, and if you paid attention to anything surrounding the build-up to the 2nd season, you know it got a little dicey. Fans completely did not have any trust or faith that the 2nd season would be anything good. It's covering the U20 playoff tournament arc, which is honestly the most important part of the whole series, if not the most interesting and fun. And yeah, I'll just say that it's basically more of just season 1 so far. I mean, it's nothing too drastically different with the production. Even with the first season, the animation of them playing soccer wasn't all too intriguing to me. It was more just the general concept of the story. And you'll see that there's another blue sports anime that is airing literally in the same season. That's just way better, and it's not even entirely trying to be a sports anime. But with all that said, I think I'm way more open to the show compared to all the so-called fans that just call this thing trash at every step and turn. Like, guys, it is not as bad as Seven Deadly Sins. You're joking with yourselves. The show continues that it can be very fun with just the concept alone, and this studio does a great job with all the motion graphics. The openings look stellar. The way they introduce and explain the different games and tournaments is very clearly readable. I find it really funny when people online start dogging on the show's use of CG, and I do think if the show was strictly intended to be made with CG entirely from the ground up, we could have had a Blue Lock that looked like the Slam Dunk movie. That's all I'm saying. Not as well versed in the genre, but to me, the Slam Dunk movie is just kind of on a whole other level that nothing has really matched so far that I've seen. But either way, as somebody who doesn't really care for the genre, I'll say, Blue Lock is still entertaining enough for me to want to keep up with it. And if you're a fan of the source material, I still think this is definitely worth watching, and I wouldn't just throw it away. They've really nailed the characters, and the most important part, they get all the hype moments right. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, there is a better sports anime with the blue name in the title.
会いたい人が
Okay, words cannot describe how amazing this show is. To just kind of give the general plot, this is a romance series following our two main characters, one that plays badminton and another that plays basketball. They go to a school that is known for their high school sports teams and for making the nationals. Okay, well, is this more of a sports show or more of a romance show? It's literally so equally split down the middle that it's just, I don't even know how they allocated the time to do both. They've seriously went all out with making the environments for the school and just having so much movement in the background. There's constantly kids in the background playing some sort of sport in the gymnasium, whether it's them being rotoscoped or hand animated, it doesn't matter. There's just always movement and everything feels so alive. Not only that, but for the romance fans, the character acting animation is just as good as the sports shots. You have all these subtle movements and idiosyncrasies between the characters. It's like Hori Mia tier. The compositing team has just nailed it with all the cinematic lighting. There's literally something for everyone to love in this show, but they didn't skimp out on parts and just make everything on an average level. They really put the effort in to make every facet of this show as top tier as possible. I think it's safe to say that my favorite sub-genre of anime now is just shows with the blue title in the name. Yeah, blue period, blue giant, blue lock, blue box. It's just never ending. I love series and shows about characters discovering their passions and fully devoting their life to it. It's just something I'm just so into, whether it's music, sports, art, anything. That's pretty much it. That's all the shows I got to recommend to you all. If you have anything that I've missed, let me know. I'm open to adding some more stuff to my catalog when I'm watching the season. And yeah, this is a new thing for me. If you've been watching my channel, you know. Facecam is new. Not something I've done before. Maybe I'll keep it in. Who knows? I think it spices up the video just by not having clips the whole time and me talking over it. Who knows? So yeah, that's it. See ya. Bye.